Epic Learning Life Events is celebrating International Women's Day, a global day celebrating historical, cultural, and political achievements made by women. The day also marks a call to action on accelerating gender parity. For Epic Lorraine Life Events, we have chosen this year, as we do with many days that we mark that are celebrated globally, is we have chosen to celebrate it differently. And we have chosen to interview mentors and mentees who have had a long journey or a historical journey together. And we felt the need for doing this is because then International Women's Day is the story of history made by women. And more often than not, women are accused of not fixing each other's crowns, which I believe is not the truth. And through the stories that we want to give on this particular International Women's Day is to actually show and prove that we do fix each other's crowns, we stand on each other's shoulders, and this is how we choose to mark International Women's Day. So join us, enjoy the conversations and the interviews that we've carried out, which include different mentors and mentees in this country and across this country on how they have been each other's shoulder to lean on, quite frankly. So karibuni sana and enjoy the interviews. Thank you and God bless you. Shelmith, introduce Jenny to us. Who is Jenny? Why is she your mentor? And why does she speak so highly of you? Out of all the mentees she could have picked, she picked you. So we are curious to know.
Yeah, so of course, I was in the green space, just coming to the green space, I think 1 year before or two. And so Jenny has long experience in the sector, of course, as a woman who was leading a company that was doing great things. She was very ideal. So I got to meet her. I think I knew of her, but I got to meet her to be introduced to her through an executive coach I was working with, because I was going through a sort of a change, and I was working through a growth phase in my career and in my personal life. And yeah, so after I talked to my coach, she happened to be a common contact person between the two of us, and she did introduce us together.
So Shelmith was introduced to me by a great friend and another amazing, amazing woman, Tessa Giambo. And she came with these sparkling references from Tess, who was just like, this lady has so much and so far to go. And would I be interested in being a mentor for her? And she just gave me a bit of the background, a bit of what she had achieved. And for me, it was a very simple yes. And then we met, and my goodness, Shelmith really just put everything into just reaching for the stars. And she's getting there. I'm so excited, Miss Deputy Director.
Jerry Kabeberi, Judy Kaberia, you have made history in your own rights in different ways. So right into it, Judy. When we called Jerry Kabeberi and he said, we're doing a story on mentors and mentees. And she said, oh my God, I would love to do this with Judy Kaberia. Meaning this is how she holds you so dearly as one of her mentees. Please tell us, introduce this mentor of yours to the world. Who is Jerry Kabeberi?
Actually, I can't finish introducing Jerry Kabeberi because she's one of the people I've looked up to from being a young journalist. I just used to admire the kind of work that she used to do, taking very brave steps, even on political issues that even were risky in life. And through my reporting, that's when I got to know we have very few women of her kind. And I really liked her so much. She can tell you I was always looking up for her, I was following her. She went to CMD, I was still looking for and following her and interviewing Jerry Kabeberi. And at some point, when people confuse my name with Kabeberi, they will call me Kabeberi instead of Kaberia. And you see, to identify a mentor, then you have to look at values that align to our values. And when I looked at her, I knew there was something so close to my heart, something that was completely aligned to what I liked to do. And one of it was speaking against violations of human rights, She was very firm when she spoke about recognition of human rights, talking about also the gender parities that we have in place and the way the society cannot continue thriving, comfortably when there's a big population, more than half of the population, that do not have the freedom to enjoy their human rights. So Jerry, I was her mentee, and she knew that she was my mentor for a very long time. And the day actually I knew she loved what I used to do is when we were struggling, starting with our own organization. We didn't know where to begin, where to start. And we had an event, and I called Jerry and I told her, Jerry, we have this event. It's violence against women married to the police women. And she said, I am coming. Where will it be? Just give me the details. And actually she came. So that's now when you have a real mentor. And this mentorship is where someone is willingly to do it for free, because we are not paying her anything. She didn't doubt me, whether the event was an important one or a bad one. She believed in me. And the fact that we spoke about the human rights part of it, she really came. And so I think mentorship is also about sisterhood, is selflessly holding someone's hands, not judging them, not looking at their age, not looking at the kind of person that they are, but looking at the worth in that person and bringing the best out of that person. So that's how far it goes, more than 10 years ago.
I think I've talked to many people, and I've been in the field of human rights for a long time, actually quite a long time. Most of my adult life, I've done human rights work. But it's not always that you find somebody who really is anxious to understand, who is seeking out information, who is trying to tread that route. A lot of people fall by accident, but I don't think Judy may have thought maybe it's an accident, but now we know from a spiritual perspective, nothing is an accident. Mm-hmm. It may have looked like an accident, you working with Capital FM and me working at CMD Kenya, and the office is not being too far away. But the follow-up, the steps that somebody takes is actually what makes you realize that this person is seeking you and is seeking your mentorship, even when you don't know it. Because like that event that Judy is talking about, I didn't even really know what it was about, but because it was Judy, and because I had seen her follow-ups and I had seen her commitment and I had listened to her solid stories, she would tell very solid stories at Capital FM. Not just a lot of, there are many reporters out there and many do shoddy research. Sorry, guys, but you need to do solid research. But Judy would do solid research and would follow through. So for me, I thought this is somebody I respect also. It's not, mentorship is two ways. Huh? I felt that I respect her work, I admire her resilience. And that is why I thought today I have trained, Judy knows I train, I do a lot of leadership and mentorship training. I train a lot of people, but I felt that Judy and I, we've kind of fitted. There's something about the two of us, we fitted and we didn't look for it. We found ourselves in that space and then we have embraced that space, because you can find yourself in a space and then not embrace it. We have embraced that space.
All right. Thank you so much, Lorraine and Epic Lorraine Life Events, for hosting us. My name is Martha Githui. If you know me from a different setting, I'm Koi Githui. And here with me, we have Angela Wamola. So I'll give a brief background about how we met. So I'm in the technology space, started in telecommunications, so in Safaricom, and then have since transitioned to Microsoft in the IT space. And so being in the technology and the engineering space, we were few and far between women. And Angela happened to be the most senior lady in technology at the time when I joined the workforce. And so she's been instrumental in terms of just, someone who has already had to break and open up the way for certain conversations. And I believe with time we've established some sort of reverse mentorship role where at one point she's the mentor, I'm the mentee, and at another point it's the reverse. And I'm very, very happy to have Angela join us.
So Martha is a friend And more importantly, I think she's in my circle of eagles in terms of people who I can grow with, different perspectives, to show me another way, and that we can be able to share life together in terms of not only our growth, in terms of where we want to go with our careers, but also how we want to enjoy it as we work it out, because we haven't figured it out completely. But I think perspectives that she can give me and I can give her help us to shape the way forward. So as she said, we met way back in when we were both in Safaricom, both in the space of technology and trying to figure out how can this area of that's predominantly male help us also to grow our careers, because we have chosen it. We didn't just we're not victims of it. We can't say that, oh no, we got there by mistake. We chose that field, and so we have to make it work for us. So that's where we started, and we've both since left that organization and moved on to different organizations. But along the way, we're still talking to each other. We're still sharing stories and seeing how we can understand what exactly is that story behind the glory. How did you get there? What did you have to do? What can I do differently? And I think we can navigate continuously these conversations. So for us, it's not something that has a start and stop date. I don't think we can even foresee that. It's just, I guess, as they say, life is for a season, and friends are for also sometimes for a season or for a lifetime. So we're doing life together.
I would describe Esther as a go-getter, Alana, her excellence, but also very authentic. Loves God. She's very anchored, and she knows how to honor. And I can by no doubt tell you that I know Esther is going to go to places. She has no idea what that looks like, but I know it's a great place. So I can root for Esther because I have a lot of confidence in her future and in her dreams. She dreams big. And I think that's what we need to know, because we are all created for greatness. And I think Esther goes for that.
I would begin by saying, wow, Betty is somebody who, first of all, she's a great listener. She's a great listener. She embodies the greatness that I have seen in her. She's quite an achiever. She's a woman of faith. Faith I can't even explain. Faith beyond. Those kind of faith that you're just like, the way they say childlike faith, you're like, how? Yeah. So that's Betty. And she really has a big heart. There's no time that I knock on her door and she's too busy for me. She'll always squeeze time, find time for me. She knows how to affirm me and also to correct me where I'm going wrong. She's practically, many times I joke with her and tell her she's my mother in Nairobi, since my mother is far away from the city. I'm like, she's my mother in Nairobi. She's my life coach, she's my mentor, and yet at the same time, she's my mother right here in Nairobi. So yeah, that's who she is.
Johnny. So Njoki, the mentor, who doesn't think she's a mentor, we appreciate the efforts, you have put in and paved way for many, many others. And I just wanted you to say a quick word about Epi Matere.
Where do I begin? Do you have like 2 hours for this introduction? I believe my relationship with AP, let's first define AP. She's one of the top, if not the top producer in East Africa, I would say so. East Africa, not just Kenya, because she's done more TV series, more episodes than anybody else I know. And she knows film industry on the ground a great deal. And she's also one of the most popular trainers at the MultiChoice Talent Factory, which is a MultiChoice Film Academy, of which I am the immediate past academy director. So I know Epi as a producer, as a facilitator and also as a friend. My relationship with AP began when I came back from having taken a sabbatical from my consultancy career to do filmmaking in Hollywood. And I came back and I was awarded one of the biggest, maybe the first biggest high-ed drama series to be in charge of, that is being an executive producer. And I had everything in theory and everything. And I needed to recruit the crew. And the first person that was recommended to me was AP. And I always repeat this. When AP and I met, she told me, oh, what you're saying is fantastic, but let me show you how we do it on the ground. Thus, a relationship began. That was more than maybe 15 years ago, and we're still going. And we're probably the first two, I would say, big producers to partner and work together, because we got to know each other at the time when there was a lot of backstabbing of producers, and there wasn't that partnerships where you get to do more by synergizing. So we continue to do so. We continue to support each other. So I guess that is a brief on AP. Otherwise, you should have given me 2 hours.
For me, I'll just go back when I met Njoki and came flamboyant from UCLA with all the American terms. I looked at this girl and I was like, what is wrong with this girl now? That she thinks this is going to work here. So I listened to her, then I told her, now you see all that you said? Yeah? He put aside, let me show you how to do work. And it took a lot of guts because, I mean, she was more mature in terms of age for me. She had a better career in terms of management from out of film, because now when I was told I'm going to work in Njoki, I found out who she was. And then here I am, I'm sitting and listening and thinking, oh my God, this cannot work. Then you have to have the guts to tell this person who is your senior, this is not going to work. Let me show you how it works. She looked at me and she said, okay, let's do this. And from that, we created that rapport and that relationship. So when it came to film, I guided her and I showed her. But then there's a part that she played in my life that is very crucial, because now I was such a film person, I just concentrated on film. And then Njoki sat me down and said, now you need to think about your life, your future. And now that's when she started now coaching me about life issues, management, and that's, I made a lot of decisions. And when I tell people, like, I made a lot of decisions, at one particular time, I think Njoki, we were doing season 3 of Changes, and I think you had a career chat with me. And that's when I made a decision, because now she asked me, how long are you going to be hired? And I thought, wait, I can actually start. That's actually, I started my own production company, because she challenged me. I remember asking me then, when are you planning to start having a family? And I thought, wait a minute, you can talk to me about family. And you know, that's how I started having a family, because now she challenged me to get into that space. Yes, I was good at my work, but then she challenged me, you're good at your work, but you're not there yet. You need to start thinking beyond just being a producer. And that is the most amazing thing. And from that, we've been able to work together. There's a time I remember we went for a party and Njoki saying, we've hired each other. There's a time I had Njoki to be executive producer with me when we were doing the 71 movies. And then she had hired me on Changes. And now we are collaborating together. So people don't really understand our relationship. Currently, like now the job she's doing, everybody thinks it's Appy's job. Then no, it's Njoki's job. Then no, it's a collaboration between the two of them. So people are confused about this relationship. They're really confused. How are you guys working together? And being women in the industry, especially that time when we joined, there was a lot of backstabbing. And having a relationship over 15 years later, it's not easy. It takes a lot of people, who are ready to take criticism positively. So when you criticize each other, they're like, yeah, that one was hard, but and I hear you. So can I buy you a glass of wine so that we can resolve this issue? And we've been able to go through those elements. You know, there's some things that somebody will tell you about, like, yeah, that's below the belt. And I'm like, I'll never talk to her. That one, she thinks she's what? Then you sit back and you're thinking, and Njoki can never lie to me. Let me think about it. When you think about it, then you have a glass of wine, you work it out, and we help each other with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I do absolutely love that answer. And so because we're speaking about break the bias, Shelmith, what then are you doing, having stood on shoulders like Jenny and others, to break the bias in whatever level and in whatever capacity as a woman in clean energy space?
I mean, one of the ways is to speak up. Make sure that you, whatever role you are in, that you speak up, that you bring your all to it, and fighting for that space, and also going for really challenging opportunities. Like not shying away. Yes, because I mean, in terms of gender equality and all that, as you also have to sort of give yourself, encourage yourself, and sort of, you really talk to yourself really in terms of believing in yourself, because we know that one of the challenges is imposter syndrome, which I think many women suffer from. So you have to go for what you want, and you have to go for what you want and believe in yourself. And I think one of the other things is continuing to build yourself and to grow yourself, because it has to start internal. You can't fight for this space and you can't help others if internally you're still, you don't believe in yourself, if you don't have confidence in yourself. So having that continuous self-development, I think, is really important, and I think for me, from the minute that I started working with Tess and Jenny, I think that's something that one of the other things that came to my mind was that, you know what, I need to continue to develop myself. So having the vision and knowing that I am working on this, and going to people who are more experienced and who can help you to work on that. I think asking for help and going for big things, I think you need to stretch yourself. Growth can only come through stretching yourself. I think that's
it.
Yes.
I put my hand up, right? You asked me a question. I am now attention. Ladies, put your hand up. Always, whether you think you can do it or not, jump, put the hand up.
Fantastic. And I bet that's what your Break the Bias for us would be then, as our mentor, as the one leading us, Jenny. You would then encourage women to break the bias by raising your hands up no matter what, right?
Absolutely. I mean, coming from what Shelmith was saying, it's, we just have to step into the opportunities without questioning ourselves. You see the opportunity, and us as women, we often go, then we step back. We see it, we step back and we go, can I do it? Do I have the skills? Will I be able to? And we sometimes then talk ourselves out of it. So it's, don't let yourself talk yourself out of it. See the opportunity, put the hand up, take the step forward.
Fantastic, fabulous, paying it forward, and standing on such mighty shoulders. You know that you're accountable to somebody. That if I quit today, what will I tell my mentor? And then imagine there's somebody else under you, Judy, saying the same thing. What would my mentor Judy then say? Jerry, very quickly, I'm just looking at our time. Very quickly, breaking the bias or break the bias. What does that mean to you? And what do you think? How do we apply it going forward, even as we celebrate this year?
Breaking the bias, I don't know whether it's breaking the bias or it should be breaking the barriers, but nonetheless, I do not think that, I place a lot of responsibility on the self and on the individual. Because I know, I also, as I said, spiritually, I know that we are made in the image of God. I also know that we have been given all authority by God to do things the right way. But we abscond this responsibility. So when we talk about breaking the biases, it's really, it has to start with me. I have to start seeing myself differently. I have to start seeing myself as worthy. I have to start seeing myself as a leader. Like for the women who want to be members of parliament, Kenya is now going into an election this year. You may be wanting to be a leader, but have you seen yourself as a leader? Have you embraced that leadership for the self? Because the minute you embrace it for yourself, other people start seeing exactly how you feel and how you think. So it's very important that we break this through our own beliefs in ourselves. We need to fully embrace who it is we want to be, what it is we want to be, and embrace the power we have. A lot of us lose power. We do not know that we have power. And as I've said, we have all been given the same power. And by the way, that power has been given to all of us equally. So those people you see powerful out there, whether they are presidents, whether they are ministers, whether they are religious leaders, it is because they have recognized that power. The other person you see below the sewer line, they have the same power, but they have not recognized that they have that power. And yes, sometimes there are circumstances, political circumstances, and social and economic circumstances that put us down. But we should still be able to push ourselves up, because in the image of God, we are supposed to be equal to him. So how can we remain down?
What I know for sure is that we have a huge responsibility, especially for us who have already found ourselves, like me being in the media space. One of the things that I like ensuring that women see themselves is recognizing who they are, like Jerica Beberi said. And a lot of times when I go to interact with the women at the community level, the lowest level in the society, we have a lot of unsung heroes there, women who never discovered the power that is within themselves. That traditional birth attendant who is, looked at like they don't play a role in the society. But it's up to us in the media space also to give them a chance for them to be heard in the language that they understand, in the language that other women understand. These are the women that we need to show the power that they have so that we can fight cultural barriers like female genital mutilation. If we don't talk to them and show them the kind of power of influence they have in that community, whether they are preachers, whether they are housewives, but I think every woman has power. And it is for us, those who have this space, the elite space, for us to create that space for them to be heard, for them to be celebrated, for their voices to be heard, and the thoughts that they have to be included. Then that way, the society will thrive in a place where even the women at the lowest level, the woman who, the unpaid care worker who is working as a housewife and is not regarded in the community, that we start recognizing the work and their contribution to the society. That house help that we're talking about.
We have to hope something, I think. We have to hope because that keeps us going, that there is change and we can be the change that we want to see. It's not for certain. It might not be in my lifetime, but I think as every person who has lived before me and walked this journey has started, I think they lived with that hope that they could make a difference. And whether or not we see it in our lifetime, I think the gift is that you were able to do it without the assurance that that you would be the Nelson Mandela or the Wangari Maathai of our times. I think nobody who is a hero started off saying that they wanted to be a hero and make a difference, but they just went ahead and did it. And so for us, I think that's what the mindset we should have, that change is difficult. Nobody wants change. And the status quo today is there because it benefits certain people. If there is an inequality in our area, it's because it's benefiting somebody else. So it's not in their interest to make it easy for you to benefit from it. They will do what they need to do as a gatekeeper to keep the rest of you out of it. But if we remain consistent, if we remain insistent and persistent, just showing up, putting your voice in, that's enough for me. I think that is enough to be assured somehow that change will happen.
Very well said. And even, looking at Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, and all the heroes that you've mentioned, it started with one person at a time. I think we can't just imagine that we'll change the entire world overnight, but it's just one voice at a time where Koi steps on your shoulders as Angela, her mentor, and she continues and says, I will not be silenced and I will continue to mentor other people. So Koi, just finally on the same point, do you see a world where, we're going to have equality, there's going to be a world that is diverse and inclusive as a younger person and as you mentor other people behind you now?
Yes, I see a world already. I see a world where women are having equal opportunity. And like Angela said, bias actually is it's a state of mind. So the bias is not necessarily outside of us. We are also the ones who are biased, where we are like, okay, that's not a place for us. It's traditionally been for this type of people. So we tend to remain bubbling under. But I feel like the world is opening up more and more towards giving us an equal opportunity in terms of what it is we want to pursue, how far it is that we want to go. We need to break the bias within ourselves to be able to take up these places. And as we take up these places, we, you can just do a small hole where you pass through only. But you need to ensure that the hole is wide enough for us and the whole village that is willing to get through. So definitely keeping the hope alive, and not just keeping the hope alive, but doing something about it. And one thing I wanted to mention about, the mentor-mentee relationship, it's highly driven by the mentee, right? And as much as it's reverse mentorship, it's highly driven by the mentee. So you also need to know, okay, this is where I want to go. By the way, Angela was primarily very shy when we met, very surprisingly enough. And so, there would always be these conversations of, okay, I'm trying to get into leadership. And she's like, I'm trying to be more vocal. How do we have that, thing going? So it's one of those things that you have to be very intentional about. Go about it like it's not just for you, but for those who come behind you. And we do have the opportunity to break the bias.
It is important because sometimes when you hear the argument around women and men, sometimes you wonder whether it's actually us as women projecting our own identity issues rather than the men having done us any ill. And sometimes I feel as though the men are falsely accused for just being men. And it's almost as though we want to call them to be less of men so that we can be women. And yet we don't need them to be less of men. We want them to be men. But it's just us rise to the occasion and be the woman, the full woman, the complete woman, the effective woman, the powerful woman. And you are not contrary to the man, you are complementing. And so you come in as a full, wholesome, equal into the equation. And that's where you find some policies such as race at work becomes very important and integral. But as you're having the conversations, it's about showing up competent, able, right, and wholesome. And it goes back to the issue of identity. Is it that women have an identity crisis? So their identity can only be whole when it draws from the light of the man. Are we not light enough? And that's the question, that's the issue here. So it's us not feeling enough. It's us not feeling deserving. It's us not feeling our sense, not having our sense of worth plugged in at the right place. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Let's help people to make the journey within. Let me give you a little example. If I have an issue with love and I want to be loved, but if you ask me, you'll find that the issue of not being loved is not out there. It's actually within me. Do I feel loved? And usually when you're in class, we say you cannot be more deserving than you already are. You cannot be more lovable than you already are. It is your sense of feeling deserving that's a problem. It's your sense of feeling loved. So do you love yourself, for starters? Because when I fully love myself completely and in a healthy way, it is less of an issue that somebody else doesn't love me. I'm not going to negotiate for them to love me, but they will love me because I am. It's who I am. I am loved. I am loved. I am lovable. I mean, they have no choice but to love me, and I don't have to negotiate for it. So, so the issue is the bedrock of a foundation of our identity. Do we feel loved? Do we feel human because we are women, or do we feel less of a human because I'm a woman? And then we project our own sense of identity, rather than, and half of the time men wonder. I love this phrase, and this can be quite controversial, when they say, what a man can do, a woman can do better. What's that? What's that? Just let the man do
I
his thing.
I absolutely think we missed the whole equality and inequality conversation. I think that whole Beijing conversation, you know, when all our women leaders went to Beijing, it completely lost the the purpose and the objective of what it was meant to be, that it became, we're here to compete. No. It wasn't a competition, you know, and there's a reason how God created man and woman in the way that he did. But then when it's coming to my career is totally different. You're an engineer, I'm an engineer. I've sat in the same class, you've sat in the same class. So it's really not a competition. So stop judging me based on what I wear. Judge me by what I am bringing on that table.
Powerful. And Lorraine, think about it. Talk about Beijing and the feminist movement. The feminist movement, and don't get me wrong, feminist movement came for a very great cause, for a great purpose. Equal jobs, equal pay. And that's all good and important in the workplace. But when you come to the home, there is very distinct roles that, as a woman, if I do not play that role, it doesn't matter how much money we make in that home, we will have lost something very, very important, which for me is the calling to build and nurture the next generation. And so I'm very prejudiced that the vices we see in the world today is because a generation of mothers were absent, either absent because we're trying to fend and do some sort of work that we want to measure up and be seen to be equal to the man. And we've left something very fundamental, which is building the next generation. And that's why for me, I took some very hard career decisions. I used to work for an organization that took me out into Sudan, in Darfur State, and El Fasher and Khartoum. It was an international posting. Rent will be paid, school fees will be paid. But I left that job because my daughters were 10 and 12. And that was a critical age for me as a mother to nurture them to be the woman that they are today. And most so even my sons. Yeah. So the thing is, we need to bring the lens of what's most critical. And I love a very professional lady. She used to be a mayor in the US many years ago. And she said that if a woman gets everything in terms of money, wealth, and everything, but loses her children because of the lack of nurturing and guidance, she has lost everything. And the thing is how much, when I play my full God-given role as a woman, I help even my husband. And without which he himself goes into shambles. So I started a movement called the Women of Valor movement, because women need to rise up to the occasion to play our God-given role, which is to nurture and impact our next generation and impact the men in our lives and help them to be all that they can be.
Wow, let me tell you, you need to come back for a full hour, because my editors are going to kill me, because they're like, Lorraine, keep this to a minimum this time. But this is so interesting. So you got to come back. So very quickly, Esther, I know you're itching to say something on this. And for you, it is from the perspective of a younger woman, in terms of, are we ever going to enjoy equality in your books?
Well, I think one of the things that I quickly learned sitting under Betty, just being mentored, is that issue of identity. I think when we get the identity right, we get everything else right. That really is just the beginning of everything. So when we come to the table, we're not necessarily coming because we want to compete, but because I've understood this is James and this is his strength, and this is Esther and this is her strength. But it's really anchored from that place of identity, understanding who you are, what you're bringing to the table, and not necessarily looking at it and saying, hey, what a man can do, a woman can do better. I'm here as Esther in my capabilities, yes, as a woman, but having been anchored in my identity, doing everything possible to rise and shine to the best of my ability. That is just enough.
Awesome. God, I love you, ladies. I've got to bring this to a close. And my mentor, who I've never met, but she's my mentor, always ends all her interviews with this question. And I love the question. Betty, what do you know for sure?
Because I grew up in an environment where it didn't matter whether you're male or female. So throughout my career, it never occurred to me, I'm female and the other one is male. Is this work to be done? And you do the work. To me, it's the brain, And because that's the way I was brought up, we're brought up with total equality at home, not just gender, but also age. Even at a young age, I realized I was being forced to do things if I did something badly and the quality of work was not good, even if it's housekeeping work, house chores, and the excuse that I was the youngest and I can't do as well as my big sister, that will give me a whooping. Maybe even if I'm not whipped, I will be given that task again and again till I get it right, The excuse that I'm younger, I'm a girl, I'm older, maybe that's why I grew up as a tomboy, because I am a real tomboy. Having said that, I'll give you the first probably real serious TV interview I had was very many years by another person who stayed good friends, Jimmy Gathu. He used to have a program on KTN called What It Takes. And he was interviewing me the day before I drove myself to Tanzania to start a branch of our office. And I was literally going there by road. I was driving myself to Dar es Salaam. And Jimmy asked me, one last question, Joki, how did you manage working in a male-dominated environment? This was consultancy work. Consultancy during my days, those early days, if you mentioned consultant, people thought of male, white, older. Three things I wasn't, and I wasn't going to do anything about. And I still remember up to this day, nearly 30 years later, I still remember the shock of the question and the way I responded. I simply looked at him and I said, hey, I never thought of myself as a woman. There's just a job to be done. And I did the job. Now, unlike what Lorraine, you might not know is that while in film industry, most producers are ladies, for me working in consultancy, I've been in the male world all the time. Most of the organizations I work with, the CEOs are men. Right now, I do a lot of work with boards, especially parastatal boards. They are all men. Literally, I think I've only worked with one lady chair for the very many years. So in a way, for me, it doesn't matter the gender. I remember that time, Jimmy, and many times in my life, I've been asked, how do you deal with discrimination? I guess is what you're calling in the inequality. Lorraine, I don't notice it. Why should I notice it? I'm so busy doing my work. So if you have a problem, I'm a woman, deal with your problem. Because I don't have a problem. So that's why I'm saying I might be the wrong person to ask because I don't notice it. Because if I notice it, I'll go, whoa, yeah, that one has a problem. While they say to themselves, me, I'm gone. Yeah. Yes. And that's how I am, I would never use a phrase, are you doing this to me because I'm a woman? That means you've already accepted an inferior position. Absolutely. Instead, I would say, are you doing this to me because you're intimidated by my intelligence? Go get some intelligence, then you can bring yourself at my power, Yeah. So I never notice whether it's male or female. And if a room is full of men, when I walk in, I'll know for sure then I am noticed more than any other audience because I'm the only one out here. One time, as a very young and skinny little girl, I was running a workshop that was so high level that the expatriate director even called me the night before and said, I don't know whether you survive this crowd. They're not used to having women, leave alone young ones like you. What I did, I walked in a few minutes after they were seated deliberately. I left the door open and I said, "Good morning, gentlemen. I understand you're not used to having a woman stand in front of you. I'm okay with that, and I fully understand. Anybody who has a problem, I've left the door open. I will pause so that you can walk out." They said, "Now that you haven't walked out, can we begin?"